So it seems that everybody's seeing my screen, which
I
is,
see your screen, yeah.
yeah, so let's hope the colleagues are on the line too. So let's start, Nathalie. Is there anything
Okay.
else you wish to?
No, just to introduce you,
Okay.
maybe, and Constant, just to tell that Catherine and Constant are both account managers within our directorate, Standardization and Digital Solutions. They're reporting to Cinzia, you have just heard, and Catherine is dealing with the energy and living bubble, while Constant is dealing with all the electro-technology sector. Well, I think that you are ready, Catherine and Constant, and you can tell us every tiny detail to fully understand the process. So go ahead, the floor is yours.
Yes. Thank you, Nathalie. So yes, indeed, I'm Catherine, and it is my pleasure today with Constant to drive you through the standardization process, which is not always so simple, and we will try to keep you entertained during the next 2 hours and a half. The presentation, and you will see this in the next slide, is subdivided into different sessions, and you will have the opportunity to ask all the questions after each part, so that you do not need to wait for the end of the full session to ask your questions. So you'll see we'll have some spaces for questions in between. As a first slide, if things is willing to change. Yeah, voila. Let's do a very short introduction. So as Cinzia have told some minutes ago, CENELEC is the European Committee for Electrotechnical Standardization and is responsible, of course, for standardization in the electrotechnical engineering field. CENELEC is one of the 3 European standardization organizations, and this together with CEN and ETSI. Each organization has a specific scope of activities. ETSI is telecommunications and electrotechnology, I've just said, and CEN is dealing with all other sectors. CENELEC can count on a very strong network of 34 members, as explained by Cinzia. All our members are also IEC members, and of course, when we speak about CENELEC, we of course have to mention IEC as well. Of course, CENELEC is always committed to work first at international and IEC level. And what is also very important as an introduction is to say that IEC standards are implemented as European standards. You will see the details of this later on. But let's then just continue with the short intro on the strong, very strong link between CENELEC and IEC. As you know, we enjoy this close and long-standing cooperation. And I mean, in order to facilitate a consensus finding process between European and international standards development activities, CENELEC and IEC formalize the framework of their cooperation through the signature first in 1991 of the Lugano Agreement. Then this agreement has been revised, and the revised agreement has been signed in Dresden in 1996, and more recently, the revision of the Dresden Agreement has been signed in Frankfurt, and that's why we call today the Frankfurt Agreement. Some, let's say, older colleague that maybe I can, I'm working in standardization for more than 15 years. Now I'm sometimes still saying the Dresden Agreement. No, it's the Frankfurt Agreement. But let's now jump into the really core of our presentation after this short intro on the strong link with IEC and CENELEC. So this is the structure of our speech today, of our presentation today. I will first guide you through the roles and responsibilities of technical bodies. Then Constant will then present you the standards development process. I will give you the main features of the Frankfurt Agreement. I know that you were invited to listen to the presentation we made last year on the topic, but I will just make some points and highlight some specific aspect of the Frankfurt Agreement. Then Constant will have the nice task to explain the citation of harmonized standards in the official journal of the European Union, and we will also bring some interesting light on horizontal topics for Senelec. Then I will give you some info on where to find what. We have some websites, we have some web page where the info is there for you in order to support you in your work. As said, after each of this session, you'll have the opportunity to ask your questions. I also invite my colleague Tonstan to interrupt me because he has the right to speak. I mean, with this IT program, so to stop me or to add and complement what I'm telling, and of course the contrary is true. I will not hesitate to add info when Constant will speak, just to give also a bit of dynamism to the session. So,
Catherine,
yes.
Thank you, if I may. Yeah, thank you for the introduction. Indeed, this is Constant, just also to present myself before we start, and to thank you actually also from my side to join this training session. So yeah, as it was mentioned, of course, we are doing this virtually, so it might not be the most convenient in order to train people, but actually we will do our best to keep you entertained and with a full understanding about the different rules and processes. And before we continue with the presentation, just to mention that indeed do not hesitate to provide comments, questions in the chat. You can play the keyboard heroes today, so don't hesitate about that. Thanks very much. Catherine, up to you. And
Yeah.
I'll interrupt you if...
Yes, please do. Stop. Yeah, so and indeed it's true that doing this online is not as convenient as doing it in a meeting room, because we are used to do it in a meeting room with very interactive session with colleagues around the table in a relatively small rooms in our meeting center. So the fact of doing it such a complex session, let's say, online is a bit tricky. But let's go to the core of our activities, and let's say the core people in our businesses is the role and responsibilities of technical committees and working groups. But prior to do that, it might be important to look at the overall structure of, let's say, the technical work. So this is a three-layer decision, a three-decision layer at technical level. First, there is the technical board, acronym BT. You will often hear us to say BT this and BT did that and BT decided this. So BT is technical board. So this is the governing body who is deciding on all matters concerning the organization, the working procedure, the coordination and planning of standardization work. The technical board is also examining proposal and so on. So this is really the first layer. The technical board is reporting directly to the General Assembly. So this is the governing body for technical matters. Just below, we have the technical committees. Technical committees are established by the technical board with a precise scope and title, and they are responsible for preparing the deliverables, the standards. But we'll go a little bit more into detail afterwards. And then we have the working groups. And a working group is directly reporting to the technical committee. And the working group is really where the standard is developed, where the standard is drafted. So you see the reporting line. Working groups report to the technical committee, and the technical committee reports to the technical board, not only on a regular basis, but also if there is any need, any specific issue for which the technical committee needs to report to the technical board. And as said, the technical board is reporting itself to the General Assembly through the Vice President Technical and to the Administrative Board, CA as appropriate. The technical board, and we'll see that later, has also the opportunity to create a working group, specific working group, which have a very dedicated task. But let's now really jump into what the technical board is deciding upon, what the technical board is doing, how it is structured. So the chairperson of the technical board is the Senelec Vice President Technical. And I have the pleasure to inform you today that our Vice President Technical, Mr. Frédéric Vaillant, is with us today. Unfortunately, due to the setup of this webinar, I'm not able to give him the floor to say a few words, but I'm really sorry for this, Mr. Vaillant, but it's very great. I mean, it's great that you are participating to this info session to our new technical body officers. The secretariat of the technical board is held by CCMC. It means by ourselves, CCMC being the CEN/CENELEC Management Center. We have a department within the standards department in CCMC who is dedicated fully to the CEN and CENELEC technical boards. It's the unit led by my colleague Alberto Simeoni. Around the table of the CENELEC technical board, who do we have? We have one representative per national committee. So the 34 members of CENELEC appoints a representative that we call in our jargon permanent delegate around the table. And in addition to that, we also have observers like European, like partners of CENELEC, like CESET for household appliances. We have the European Commission around the table, but we do also have like societal stakeholders like ANEC, in charge of protecting the interest of consumers in standardization, and ECOS protecting the representing the environmental interests in standardization. So they are part of the technical boards. The technical board usually have 3 physical meetings a year. During these physical meetings, we try to have a common session with CEN for topics of joint interest. And for the rest of the time, the CENELEC BT is working by correspondence. You see, I'm already using acronyms. So BT, technical board. So the technical board is working by correspondence. We have weekly dispatch of 4 weeks consultation. Practically speaking, what does it mean? It's that every Wednesday, our colleague dealing with the technical board is sending a batch of documents for consultation by the members of the technical board. Members of the technical board have 4 weeks to consult and give their opinion, whether it is fine, whether it is not fine with the proposed decision. So it's a two-way working. For things which are, let's say, straightforward, the technical board is working by correspondence. For things which really needs a discussion, the technical board is working through, I mean, those topics are discussed in physical meetings. Of course, this year the physical meetings were online, but we managed, and we'll see what will happen next year. We have already the date of the physical meeting scheduled, but we'll see how the situation will progress. As said, the responsibilities of the technical board is really to advise and decide on technical matters. Can be the organization of the work, but can also be the procedure. If there is any need to adapt, align the procedure to, I don't know, to new future features, to new IT tools, I don't know what, the technical board is the responsible body for that. Even more importantly, the technical board is monitoring the work program of the technical committees. You will see later, but technical committees are obliged to report after each meeting of their activities to the technical board. Through this reporting, there is a page dedicated to the work program of the technical committees, and the technical board is looking at it. And it's really following, and it's also, we need to see this also as supporting the work of our technical committees. The technical board in CENELEC is also deciding, or let's say approving new projects from a technical committee. So when a new technical committee comes with a new proposal for a work item, this has to be approved by the technical board. The technical board is very also involved in standardization requests. I do not know whether you are familiar with standardization requests, but standardization requests are political wish, let's say, a wish from the European Commission to develop some standardization activities on a specific topic. And you know, when we accept these standardization requests, this is like a kind of contract we are signing with the Commission somehow. So it means that if we approve this standardization request from the European Commission, we commit ourselves to do that, or to develop the requested standards. So that's why we need to carefully take care or carefully look at those standardization requests, evaluate whether it is feasible, technically feasible, whether the timing is okay. We have a specific procedure for that. We are establishing some subgroups called standardization request ad group, but nevertheless, the approval and the rejection of those standardization requests the decision to reject or approve is a decision from our members, and the decision is taken within the technical board area. If there is any request from the administrative board or even from the General Assembly, the technical board can take this task. Of course, we hope that everything goes well so that we can manage everything by correspondence. But of course, if there is any need, we can go for a discussion during a physical meeting. The technical board is also involved when CEN and CENELEC developed a position paper or developed a reply to EU consultation on any topic of interest of the standardization community. So this is the main responsibilities. And now I wish to go to the next slide. So as said, the CENELEC technical board is leading, or let's say governing, the technical activities. So it is very important from the technical committee side to be in contact with your permanent delegate, because this is your voice somehow at the technical board. So do not hesitate to connect with your permanent delegate, and do not hesitate as well to be in contact with CCMC, with your project manager, because as you may know, for each technical committee, a project manager is allocated to you, to your TC, and this colleague is really the interface between you, the technical board, any external stakeholders. So really, if you have any question or doubts or anything, do not hesitate to contact us. In CENELEC, you need to know that there are many, many items which require a technical board decision. By default, the CENELEC technical board takes decision in the absence of sustained opposition. So the decisions are taken by correspondence if they are straightforward. And if, for instance, there is something which do not go easily by correspondence, or if there is a disagreement from one side, no problem. We put the topic at the next technical board, physical technical board meeting. That's why, yes, I have said there is really an importance to connect with your permanent delegate, because he is, as said, is your representative in the technical board. As said before, there are some specific technical board working groups, which are existing on many topics. Let's say more horizontal nature. And Constant will go back to that a bit later in the presentation. But for instance, for CENELEC, we do have a BT working group dealing with some directives, low voltage directive, electromagnetic compatibility directive, and the radio equipment directive. These BT working groups are really important in terms of CENELEC positioning towards the Commission, but I'm sure that Constant will mention that later on.
Yes. Yeah, voilà. Indeed, Catherine, if I may indeed complement what you just said, indeed, just to reiterate the fact that let's say the involvement of the CENELEC BT in the technical activities is quite important. You may know that actually, be it for CEN or for CENELEC, the different technical activities are framed within the CEN-CENELEC internal regulation part 2. So actually the same principles and process apply to CEN and CENELEC in both organizations. But actually from a pragmatic point of view, actually the CENELEC BT compared to the CEN BT, I would say is closer to the activities of the CENELEC TCs in the sense that for many topics, for many subjects, for many decisions taken by the technical committees, there's often the need to go to the technical board of Senelec to get a decision by the Senelec BT to endorse, for instance, what the Senelec TC has decided. So the link between the Senelec BT and the Senelec TCs is really dynamic, and that is why the intervention of CCMC in that respect is also very important to provide this interface, because here we are eventually addressing two different public, the TC and the BT, and often it's basically the role of CCMC to make sure that what the TC wants is according to the framework decided by BT, and this also concerns about the communication. So CCMC is really there to make sure that what the TC wants is correctly formulated to the Senelec BT, so that the BT can take the most informed decision in that respect. And eventually, yeah, just to mention that about the BT working group, we do have BT working group on specific directives when it comes to harmonized standards, which are driving the technical policy. And this is another important link for the technical committees and for you as a technical body officers, because at the end in Senelec, there's really a lot of different groups with different responsibilities. So I will say that the first competencies that a technical body officer has to have is this capability of navigating through this the ecosystem to understand who is responsible to what, to really navigate the most efficiently possible in the process. But of course, CCMC, the project manager, all the people in CCMC are there for you to guide you in this ocean of groups, I would say. Thank you.
You're welcome, Constant. That's true. That's true that, I mean, your CCMC contact point is really there to help you to channel your request to the technical board or even to the relevant BT working group if and when needed. And Constant was right to insist really on the fact that we are there to help you and to support you in the development of your work. Absolutely. Yeah, no, technical committees. So, technical committees are established by the Senelec Technical Board. Yeah, I forgot to mention that, you know, as said, we have our jargon. BT is Technical Board, TC is Technical Committee, WG is Working Group. So we have our own jargon. And if sometimes my speech look like Chinese for you or like a strange language, just stop me and I will try to speak normally and say the words in full. So the Senelec technical committees are established by the technical board. When being established, they do have a precise scope and business plan. They are, of course, responsible of drafting deliverables. Technical committees, as said, are involved in the development of this standardization request because this is where the expertise is. It's in technical committees. So when the commission comes with a standardization request, we will go back to the technical committee, I mean, in charge of the topic, and we say, hey guys, is it really feasible, technically speaking? And then in terms of time frame. So technical committees have an important role to play in telling us, okay, what is technically feasible or not? Is there something going on at IC on that topic? So we really count on the help of the technical committee to tell us what is feasible or not in terms of standardization. And of course, the technical committee is responsible for the timely execution of the standardization request, because as you may know, the standardization requests issued by the Commission, by the European Commission, have a time frame. And sometimes, even if technically feasible, the time frame is crazy. So you need to tell us that, because we are not necessarily experts or, strong experts in the field. So tell us if there is something wrong in the development process of such standardization request, as soon as you spot something. A technical committee is composed of a chairperson and a secretary. And I will come back a little bit later on these roles. We do have representative or delegates from each Senelec members. Delegates representing their national committee in technical committees represent the national position. They do have vote right if there is any need for a vote. And within the technical committee, you can also have observers coming from, which are Senelec liaisons, which are, for instance, European Federation in charge of a topic, and so on and so on. Yeah, very important. The chairperson is neutral. The chairperson should not represent its country, of course. He is officially appointed by the technical board, and he presides the meetings and, of course, try to reach the consensus as much as possible. And is also the interface with the Senelec Management Center, because it might well be that the technical committees, that the chairperson needs support, but he might also give us some hints on how the things are going in the technical committee, whether there are some influences or whether the work is going in a certain direction and so on. So it's, the chairperson is really an important person for us, and it's very important. Constant,
Yes.
tell me.
Catherine, thank you.
Because I hear your breath. That's why.
I'm sorry.
No, but if you have something to tell, just tell me.
No, sure. No, just to mention indeed that the chairperson is indeed someone quite important, of course, in the system, but also for CCMC to deal with. And actually, he is the chair, the president of the committee, but in the sense of managing consensus, so primus inter pares. So just the opportunities to say a few words in Latin. Thank you.
I'm impressed, Constant. So yes, consensus above all, of course. We know it's not always easy, but that's why we really count on the knowledge and expertise and, let's say, the good sense of our chairpersons to help to get the consensus. The secretary is also a very, very important person for us. The secretary of a technical committee is appointed by the national committee holding the secretariat of the technical committee. He has the hard task to ensure that the technical committee works efficiently within the agreed time frame, that the documents are delivered on time, that the TC, in pushing sometimes the experts. It's not the easiest role, but it's a crucial role. The secretary also prepares, distributes the documents in times for the meetings and to us as well. I take this opportunity to remind that in principle, for physical meetings, the agenda and documents for a technical committee plenary meeting needs to be uploaded 2 months before the meeting on the collaboration tool. Yeah, the guy or that lady is managing all the documents. And even more crucial, the secretary needs to be aware of the decision related to the technical work. He knows where the technical committee stands in terms of work program and upcoming project, ensure coordination and information with others. If there is a standardization request allocated to a specific technical committee, that person is really in charge of preparing the report. So this is a key role. And that's why, again, do not hesitate to be in contact with CCMC, with your project manager, if there is anything, I said, even if it is a doubt, even if you believe that is a stupid question, there's no stupid question. And you'll see there are so many exceptions in the system that and for us also at CCMC level, it's very nice to get in contact with those secretaries. It's, it's also building a relation and trust between colleagues. So we really count on that. Yeah. So the secretary roles, of course, differs depending on the activities. Of course, because there are some technical committees which are developing a lot of harmonized standards or which have a lot of standardization requests in the pipe. There are other technical committees having a lot of parallel standards with IEC, those having only homegrown standards. So of course the role is a bit different, but it's always a key role. What is more and more important, and we need to emphasize that here, that's that the project management, really the follow-up of the development of the deliverables is more and more crucial. As you know, time is very important, more and more these days. So that's why we really count on the help of the secretaries to push and to ensure that the standards are delivered on time. And yeah, of course, the secretary is also the guardian of very important criteria, or not criteria, but values that we have in the system, which is transparency, openness, and consensus building. And as said in the last bullet, is just to say that this relation is very crucial. You'll see we are all nice in the Stantec Management Center, so do not hesitate to contact us. As you already may have noticed, we have all our own style, but we are human, and this is also the funky part of the work.
That's true, Catherine. Yeah, if I just may, about the previous slide, about the role of secretary, it's true that this role has evolved over the years from being a secretary managing document, preparing meetings, but today, as you know, when it comes to standardization, there's many challenges that all the people involved in the system are facing. And in that respect, it's really important to adopt this project management perspective. And I believe it's in ISO where the secretary are now called committee manager. And actually that really gives the idea of the role of the secretary. And beyond that, it's really the main interlocutor to CCMC, and by the way, the CCMC PM and the secretary are really forming a team as such, I would say, in order to help the TC, the different experts to reach the different objectives. And I also wanted to say basically that as secretary, as newly appointed secretary, you could see that there are a lot of different rules, processes. You may have seen the internal regulation part 2, the different information that we're going to provide to you today. But actually, I would like to give you the following message, is that you can forget about all the different rules and processes, etc., in all those details. Because actually, if in your work as secretary, in every action you are doing, it will be always important to apply the principle of transparency, openness, and consensus building in everything you do. So that if you apply those principles in every action you take, actually you can be sure that it's going to be compliant with the rules and processes. And so, of course, for the tiny details and the details as such, the CCMC is there for you, but it's really those principles that must drive your different activities.
Thank you, Constant. And I'm realizing when reading the chat that we are already using our jargon, because we said CCMC PM. So a CCMC PM, and it's on the slide, is your project manager within CCMC, so the Stantec Management Center, which means one of our colleagues, let's say, in another words. So yeah, I said we are working through national delegation principle. So each national committee can appoint delegates in a technical committee, but as said, delegates are supposed to bring the national position and not their company position to the work. This is to give something a bit more like a picture. So around the table of a technical committee, we have Senelec members. We can have some observership from IEC, but most of the time by the presence of, let's say the link is someone from a Senelec members also actively participating at IEC level. It's not someone from IEC central office. We can have around the table of a technical committee's affiliates. We can have also colleagues from the European Commission, especially in technical committees developing standards in support of some legislation. We also have European partners, what we call Annex 3 organization or societal stakeholders. What is very important to note is that only members can vote. The other ones are observers. if you wish to know what kind of liaisons and so on or organization can take part of your work, if you have some free time, you can read the SENSEC Guide 25, which is the concept of partnership with European organization and other stakeholders. But basically, liaisons are European federations dealing with the topic, or with the topic that your technical committee is dealing with. If I go to the next slide, voila. So we do have a recommendation, strong recommendation from our technical board to say that every second or every 2 plenary meetings of a SENELEC technical committee is to be held in the SENELEC Management Center. Why? It's because first we have a nice meeting center, but second and most importantly is because you can then ask your project manager to come to your meeting and to exchange with your project manager, I mean in real, physically also. Your project manager can do a little presentation on a topic you feel that is necessary for your technical committee members. It's really to help that, because as you can imagine, our project manager follows many technical committees and cannot travel all around Europe every week to attend plenary meetings of your technical committees. Of course, on an exceptional basis, they can do that, but that's why we recommend to have every 2 meetings in a technical in Brussels, so that you can meet and have the help and the support, during the plenary with your project manager. It is also quite helpful if you wish to have, for instance, someone from the European Commission. That might, if you really need a strong statement, or if you really need to discuss with a European Commission colleague, it's easier to have the meeting in Brussels. Before the meeting, what is crucial is that the SENELEC Technical Committee Secretary circulate the agenda and the documents for discussion, at least 4 weeks before. There are templates for the agenda, for the attendance list, for, I don't remember exactly what, on the SENELEC Boss. SENELEC Boss is a website with all information you can dream of, but it does also contain some templates for the, let's say, the good handling of your technical committee. And if you cannot find the document, no worry, just ask us. Of course, every document from a technical committee is to be uploaded on the collaboration tool, and technical committee secretary can have access to projects online that you will have a little bit more info this afternoon with the IT colleagues, but it's a website where you have the full work program of each, of your technical committee. You can click on the project, see where it is. Also in terms of where it is in-house, in Brussels, at the editing phase, for instance, see the link with the directives. It's a nice tool to follow your work. And so, as said, each technical committee secretary has access to it by default, and technical committee chairman can ask access to it. As said, there is also a template for the attendance list to technical committee. This is quite an important document, the attendance list, because there's some copyright things also on this attendance, so that's why we insist to use this one. After the meeting, the SENELEC Technical Committee Secretary has to issue a report. So the template of the structure of this report is on the SENELEC Boss. A report of the meeting. It's not, you do not need to put all the minutes. It's just to put the main thing that the BT needs to know, that the technical boards needs to know. For instance, if you intend to launch a new work item, if you really struggle, I don't know, with a standardization request. It's also to inform the technical board members of any issue you are encountering. But as said, it's not like writing the minutes. It's just highlighting the key points and, let's say, the key issues you might encounter. This report is to be sent within 2 months after the plenary meeting to our colleagues from the data service. You can, you need also to send the info on the working group. You need to tell us whether the convener of a working group has changed, whether the title, whether the working group has to be disbanded, and so on. it's not that, I mean, that we are like chasing you on that, but it's because our database needs to be updated. That's why we are a bit pushy also on that. If there is the decision to create a new work item during the plenary meeting, just send us the new work item form, but we come back on that later. When the TC Secretary has sent us this report, we issue, I mean, at the Sensenec Management level, Sensenec Management Center level, we issue a cover sheet to the TC highlighting the key elements, and we are then submitting this document to the technical board, usually by correspondence, for the BT consultation. And there, as said, the technical committee has to put any, I mean, we will highlight any, I mean, anything which require a BT decision. For instance, if you decide to change your scope or the title of your technical committee, we will of course put that in our cover sheet because this is super important. And this will be sent, as said, to the technical board for a 4 weeks consultation. What you need to know is that anything related to the technical board, for instance, when you send a document to us for technical board approval, after the consultation from the technical board, your project manager will tell you, yes, by the way, your report has been approved by the technical board, or the technical board did not approve your report or your new work item for such and such a reason. So I mean, you will be in contact. It's not just sending a document in no, you'll get feedback from us on that, of course. And you will certainly know what the technical board has decided on your document. Working groups. A working group is established by a technical committee. There is no need for a technical board decision, but still you need to tell us that a working group has been created. So please inform us. Usually working groups are established for a short-term task, very precise, very specific, and experts are appointed by the national committees, but it's individual experts. The working group convener, if there is anything, needs to check back with its parent body, so with the technical committee. What is also important is that, sometimes experts are coming in working group, but it's important that they know the rules and procedure applying in the standardization world. But it is really where the standardization work is done. So in principle, the working group is developing the document, and when ready, it sends it back to the technical committee, and the decision to go forward with the document is taken by the technical committee and not necessarily by the working group. The working group is really, as said, is a working group, really developing the document, and so on. To help, technical committee or working group expert, we have developed relatively recently a code of conduct for experts participating in Sensenec technical committee, reminding that consensus is what they need to achieve, that there are some behavior that we cannot agree with, that experts in technical committee are representing their national position, etc., etc. And we have also issued, I believe it was last year, a best practices for improving effectiveness of working group meetings. This is also to explain to working group conveners what they need to do, how they, that they need to use the collaboration tool, that they need to develop, that they need to have an agenda, and how to, this is more a practical guide than the first one. And I believe that that was my last slide for the first part. And let's see whether there are some questions, because I miss a bit the chat and the Q&A. I don't see anything. ERAS.
Yes, ERAS, yes.
The name, the exact name is exploitation right as what is assessment, or I don't know, form. I can give you the full acronym once I will leave the full screen view, but it's really the attendance list where it is said that the exploitation right and that the things put in the standards, you cannot claim exploitation right on it afterwards, I believe. But it's really a top paragraph on top of the attendance list. Any other question? No? Okay. In any case, if you have question on this part afterwards, it's still fine. I will not disappear.
I think that we can have a quick look at the chat box, Catherine, because
Oui.
I think that you have some questions there.
Yes, this is Constant. I see a question about the issue of the report and decision list to CCMC. So actually, yes, every time, I mean, after each plenary meeting, it's you have to issue the TC report to BT within 8 weeks, and also the decision list to CCMC, so that CCMC can implement the different changes you want to see, like the creation of a new working group, the nomination of a new convener, etc. And so you will see that on the template for the TC report to BT, you need to send those documents to a specific email address, which is a functional mailbox. But of course, your CCMC project manager is always there to deal with it as well.
Okay, thank you. I see some questions in the question and answer. So difference between permanent members or not, we do not have this distinction as we do have at international level, because at international members we have P members, so permanent members and O members. No, in Senelec it does not exist. All our members are full members. And then I see a question, and I believe it was in the slide with the participation within a TC. So as said, members have vote, right? But one member, one vote. And when I mention 3, it's because 3 delegates per country can attend a plenary meeting. But one country, one vote. And usually when a delegation from a national committee comes with 3 persons, there's always a head of delegation, which is the one who will vote if there is any need for a vote in a technical committee. Then I see a question on work item to vote, not in vote visible, who to contact IC help desk or rather the IC secretary. I'm not sure I got the question.
Yeah, I think we can say contact your CCMC project manager in that case.
And we'll find who's we need to contact for you. Okay. I don't see any further question, but as said, voilà.
So I've just put the full wording for ERAS, which is exploitation rights assignment statement.
I was not so far, but
no, exactly.
Okay. Constant, because I see the clock progressing. So Constant, I believe this is for you. This one.
It's going fast, actually. Already more than 1 hour. I hope you're still having all fun, because we are now entering to the second part, which is about the standard development process, basically from the start of the new work item to the publication of the standard. So here, actually, and as it was mentioned, Senelec is closely linked to IAC. So we have the specific terms and terminology in Senelec to address the different steps. But actually, you will see that the standardization development process is very similar to the one that is being handled at IAC. So there's no big surprise in that respect, but it's the opportunity indeed that to tell you that under the Frankfurt Agreement, there are 2 cases to progress standards in Senelec. And I think, Catherine, you can move to the next slide. Yes, so yeah, first let's focus on European standard in that presentation. And indeed, as I mentioned, there are 2 routes in Senelec to develop and to publish European standards. We do have the parallel EN-IEC standard as foreseen under the Frankfurt Agreement, because in Senelec we have a particular commitment towards international standardization, since all Senelec members are also members of Senelec, and this is a key instrument in facilitating international trade by removing any technical barrier to trade. So this is the first route, and which is actually the main one. And the second one is about homegrown standards, which means that the Senelec TC can develop a pure European standard without any equivalent at international level. And now let's go into the details of those two different perspectives. So in those two different situations, the steps and the principle are the same, be it at CENELEC or at IEC. It's always about someone putting forward a proposal, then the different TC and working group members to manage the consensus building, to provide input. Of course, then we have the public inquiry, which is the CENELEC equivalent to the CDV in IEC. After which, of course, the TC has to address the comment, and after which you have a phase which is called the formal vote, which is the equivalent of the IEC FDIS, and after which there is, of course, the publication of the European standard. So first, let's go in the situation where we progress standards in parallel to IEC. So this is the process basically, and as you can see, it's quite straightforward, but it does not mean that there are no point of attention, notably when it comes to harmonized standards. So basically, at this stage, it's important for you to know that within your technical committee, the work program of your technical committee will be composed mainly and in certain cases exclusively of EN/IC standard, because you know that each CENELEC TC has its mirroring group at IEC. For instance, ICTC, which one? ICTC 20, for instance, as its mirroring committee at European level, which is CENELEC TC 20. And so this is very well structured and which allows us to progress EN/IEC standards in parallel, because each IEC standard can be progressed in an equivalent CENELEC technical committee. So having said that, every time the IEC triggers a new project, it is automatically created in the CENELEC TC work program. So actually, in this case, there's no need for the CENELEC TC to take the decision about the acceptation of a particular IEC project. There's no need to involve BT, because de facto and by default, CENELEC progress the IEC work items in parallel for adoption at European level. And so when progressing the standard at IEC, and this is something you know very well, it will reach different steps: CD, CDV, FDIS, and the publication. And at CENELEC, we do have the same step, except that the terminology is different. For CDV, it's public inquiry. For FDIS, it's formal vote. So this means that, for instance, when the project reaches CDV at European level, the text of the CDV will be shared with a specific notice by CENELEC to the CENELEC members, so that the CENELEC members can comment and vote on the project at IEC level and at CENELEC. Same when it comes to the FDIs. So when progressing in parallel, it's very important for the TC secretary to be on top of the work program and to monitor, and to especially monitor future projects. Why I'm saying that? I'm telling this especially in the context of harmonized standard, because in CENELEC, we aim at harmonizing EN/IEC documents for citation in the official journal in order to confer presumption of conformity. And since we do have this commitment to international standardization, we want to avoid as much as possible any deviation to the IEC standard, which provides some challenges when it comes to harmonization, which I will be able to further develop later on. But basically, it's when it comes to harmonization of standards, it's important for the secretary to be able to anticipate any new step in the process, because with any new step, there's the involvement of the HAS consultant, which check the compliance of the standards to the specific legislation. So further, when it comes to the progressing of the project at CD, CDV, public inquiry, and formal vote, these are dealt following the IEC schedule, the work being done within the IEC technical committee, which means that at CENELEC, the process are automatic. The draft will be sent to public inquiry on the same date as at the IEC. We have specific streams of data between CNELEC, between CCMC and the IEC central office to allow this possibility. And in a nutshell, this is how it works with a dedicated project at CNELEC, which mirrors the IEC standard. Moving on, I would like to provide information about homegrown standards. So standard for which CNELEC TC has obviously the lead, and of course, with that, since it is a project that are mastered by the CNELEC TC, it comes with specific processes and responsibilities. So first, it's about putting forward a proposal for a new activity, and a proposal for a new work item can be put forward by a member of the CNELEC TC, by a European agency, by a national committee as well, or by a partner organization. So basically all those involved in the technical committee. But of course, if there's a proposal that is coming from the European Commission or from a CNELEC partner organization, to be able to start this project, it will have to be approved by all the national committees involved in the technical committee. In order to trigger and to start the development of a homegrown standard, we need a TC decision to trigger this process. And based on this TC decision, we need to go to the technical board of CNELEC to activate this work item, to formally activate the work item. Because here actually the principles are the same within CEN and CNELEC, in the sense that the activation of any new work item is the responsibility of the technical board. In CEN, this is a delegated decision to the TC, so the TC can take a decision and the project is activated. In CNELEC, it's not a delegated decision to the TC, which means that in case of homegrown standard, the TC, with the help and support of CCMC, has to go to the BT to activate any new project, and this is done by correspondence, 4 weeks consultation by correspondence. So you can move to the next slide, which is about the form to trigger the activation of a new work item. So basically, first you need to rely on the TC decision before filling this form, because this is the form that will be sent to the technical board. And you can find the template on the CNELEC BOSS. So here, when starting a new project, it's important to provide specific information about the scope, about the deliverable, what it is, a European standard or something else, the link to the legislation, if any, if this standard is meant to be offered for citation. Also, what is important when launching a new work item is the TC, and you as secretary, you will have to make sure that at least 5 members support the work and are committed to actively participate in the drafting of the standards. Also, target dates are very important in that respect. There's a specific section, which you can see at the bottom, where we need the TC and especially the secretary to provide dates for the different milestones. So the target date for the delivery of the first working draft, the target date for the delivery of the inquiry draft, the PREN, and the target date for the delivery of the formal vote draft. This is subject to a new policy within CEN and CNELEC, which relate to the flexible standard process development. And actually, we will have a couple of slides on this, but actually with this process, we would like to give technical committees the responsibility to manage their standardization projects within a clear time frame. And this is something, because in the past, for each stage, the TC had 34 weeks to deliver the draft for inquiry or the draft for formal vote. But with this new process and by delivering target date, you can decide the time you will spend before being able to send the draft to inquiry and the time you will spend before being able to send the draft. for formal votes. So this is a very important exercise. This is a new policy in CENELEC. So of course, your program manager can definitely help you in filling those. If approved, if a new work item is approved as homegrown standards, of course, the standstill will apply in the sense that any national committee will not be able to start a similar project on an equivalent scope. And this is the strength of the European standardization system. Every time there's a European standard or a project for the development of a new European standard, actually any conflicting project or overlapping project will have to stop to give the prevalence to this European standard. So I think you can move on. And yeah, just to mention, of course, that when you deliver target dates, it's a commitment to deliver by those time frames. Otherwise, you will receive alerts which will chase you to deliver the draft to CCMC. Of course, we have the possibility to introduce some tolerance requests or to some changes to the planning, but basically you have to know that when putting some target dates, it's a commitment from you, from the TC to deliver by those dates. Okay, moving on to the next slide. Yeah, and especially about the flexible standard development process. I don't want to spend too much time about this today because actually there are webinars that have been organized to give you all the tips and reasoning beyond this. But for you to know at this stage, it's something that applies to CENELEC homegrown ENs because, and of course, it's not applicable to ICEN parallel standard because in that case we follow the schedule of the IEC. But here you have to keep in mind that it's about providing target dates and deciding about the time you will spend within the TC about each phase. And yeah, this is just what I mentioned in the past for each stage. So on the left, before the delivery of the draft to inquiry, and on the right, before the delivery of the draft to formal vote, you had 34 weeks to deliver, and now, as you can see on the next slide, you are free to choose the period that you will dedicate to the drafting of the PREN or the drafting of the FPREN. Yes, moving on, and yeah, this is just what I mentioned. You have to deliver target dates in that respect, and those target dates will be included in the new work item form, which means that when putting forward those dates to BT, BT will not only take a decision on the launch of the new work item, but will also take a decision about the commitment to deliver by those dates. All right. Yes, next slide about CENELEC. Yes, and this is basically how you need to provide the information by providing the target dates, but also the time frame after the BT approval. So this is an important exercise because, as you know, when putting forward a new work item request to BT, you have this interface with CCMC, and CCMC needs a bit of time to be able to prepare the relevant documentation, to give the TC the relevant advice, to get all the necessary information, to put the information to BT. So, of course, as you can understand, this is something that can sometimes take a bit of time, so that to avoid that the target dates that you provided is already beyond the schedule because of the time needed for CCMC to prepare the document and the time needed for BT to take the decision, we advise the secretary to put the time frame in weeks following the BT approval, so that the TC will not be penalized by those administrative steps which are handled by CCMC and by the BT. Okay, next. Yes, that's the good solution. Yes, and of course you can review the planning following the new work item request. You have the opportunity to introduce one change option in the planning and also to ask for a tolerance request of 9 months. What is great in CENELEC is that you have the possibility to introduce 2 tolerance of 9 months in the process. The first one can be accepted only through a request by the TC secretary. You make a request to CCMC and we introduce this tolerance in the process. If you are still late after this first tolerance, you have the possibility to request a second tolerance of 9 months. But in this case, you need to get the approval by the Senelec team. So don't be afraid about all of that. So far, you will see it's a lot of information, but it's no rocket science at the end. It's all about, as always, applying the principle of openness, transparency, and consensus building, and that will be fine. And of course, CCMC is there to guide you. Next, yes, and then still in the frame of homegrown standards. So of course, we are not in the situation of EN/IC standards. So you need to be involved as secretary in the process. For instance, every time you have a draft that is ready to be sent to public inquiry, you have to submit, of course, to CMC the draft according to some specific processes which are described on the Senelec BOSS. So basically, you have to send the draft to a specific email address together with a specific transmission notice in which you will have to give information about the standard, the project number, and also what you want as a next step for the standard. So our colleagues in the production department can know exactly what they have to do. And it's also the opportunity to mention the link to legislation. For instance, if you want that CCMC requests an assessment on the standard before the launch of the inquiry. So of course, when it comes to Senelec homegrown standards, there are specific requirements which apply to European standards. First, after the delivery of the draft to CCMC, there's an editing period, which is handled by the colleagues in the production department up to 5 weeks. And of course, following that, there's also a step which relates to the translation of the draft standard, because as you know, in SEN and in Senelec, there's a requirement to translate or to have available each and any European standard in English, in French, and in German, which means that before launching the inquiry for each project, we need to handle this translation process thanks to the help of the colleagues in AFNOR and in DIN and DK. In DK in the case of Senelec, obviously. And then the public inquiry is 12 weeks. This is the same as the CDP in IC. Next, moving on, after, of course, it's the equivalent of the FDIS. Following the result of the public inquiry, the TC has to acknowledge the result of the public inquiry, to see the comments which were provided. The TC has the possibility to skip formal votes if the work item, if the standard was positively voted. But if there's a need to modify the draft to address some comments, actually the TC will have to go through the formal vote, which is the final voting stage of 8 weeks, during which national committees will be invited to say basically, yes, I approve the standard, no, I disapprove the standard, and according to the result, the project will be published as European standard or not. Since the standardization process is always about consensus building, in most of the cases, the standards are approved. And this is what you can see on the next slide. 71% of positive votes are needed in order to get a European standard. Next, yes, this is of course, each country have different weighted votes, different strength in the process according to the size of the country. And there's a voting tool which is available on the Senelec BOSS. Yes, and yes, you can move on to the next slide quickly. Of course, CCMC is involved in the finalization of the EN. And then, as you know, and this is the difference to the IC Central Secretariat, at CCMC, we do not sell the standards actually, and we do not provide them directly to the stakeholders. Actually, we provide the European standard to the National Committee, and the National Committee are the ones selling, distributing, sharing the European standard at national level. Sorry. And of course, this European standard becomes a national standard in each and every country member of Senelec, even if this country has voted negatively on the standard. it's a commitment by the Senelec members to adopt the European standard as national standard, to withdraw any conflicting standards, and they also have the possibility, of course, to translate the standard into their specific national language. Good. Next, of course, this is the usual procedures on ongoing standards. You have the possibility to provide amendment, revision, corrigendum to maintain the standard. So I will not spend too much time on this. Maybe just to mention that in the case of EN/IC standards, you have the possibility to provide a pure European amendment on the IC standard if the IC standard as such does not satisfy the needs of the European market. This is also something that is possible. And I believe that on the next slide, you will have an overview about common modification. So common modification, this is also something important in the daily life of secretaries, in the sense that due to the Frankfurt Agreement in Senec, we have the possibility to modify the EN/IC standard according to the needs of European stakeholders. And in most of the cases, common modification are handled to satisfy regulatory requirements which cannot be satisfied in international standards. And of course, in the spirit of the Frankfurt Agreement, you may understand that we want to avoid a common modification as much as possible, because we want that European standards are adopted identically to EN/IC standard. But of course, in some cases, it's not possible to proceed without common modification. So at the next two slides, you will see an overview of the two different situations for handling common modification. The first one is when you are in phase with the EN/IC parallel development, which means that we're gonna have a work item for the EN/IC and a work item for the common modification. So here, in order to progress in phase with the EN/IC, the Senelec TC has to detect as early as possible in the process the need for common modification. This is something that can be very useful, because in that case, if you detect the need to create a new work item before the start of the CDV, you will not have to go to Senelec BT to approve the new work item. CCMC can register this new work item, and which can progress in parallel. So here it involves a lot of project management, because as secretary, you will have to make sure that the European common modification will be sent to CCMC before the starting date of the CDV, to make sure that the two processes will be able to progress in parallel. So I don't want to go too much into details at this stage. We will be able to follow up together and with your project manager as needed. Just to tell you that there's also a second case where the common modification project is not in phase. For instance, the draft is available after the inquiry has passed. So in that case, we will have to make a new work item request to PT in order to handle the common modification. Good. Next, do I have some more slides? And yes, without forgetting the other deliverables, TS, TR, and CWA, which are actually outside the Frankfurt Agreement, which means that IEC technical specification and IEC technical report will never progress in parallel in the Senelec TC. But as Senelec TC, you have the possibility to adopt those IEC technical specification and those IEC technical report, but only once they have been published at international level to become a Senelec TS or a Senelec TR. Similarly, homegrown Senelec TS and Senelec TR are not offered to the IEC, so they are outside the Frankfurt Agreement. Okay, next, just a brief overview about the process for Senelec technical specification. Actually, it's the responsibility of the TC to draft the technical specification, and there's no public inquiry, but simply a vote after usually 12 months, basically, during which national committees are invited to say yes or I approve the draft, no, I disapprove. And then the TS is published. Next, it's about the technical report. Here, the same principle. There's only one vote, yes or no, after the draft is ready. Good. Next, and workshop agreement. Of course, this is something that is not developed by technical committees, but which is developed by a workshop as such, leading to the publication of Senelec workshop agreement. And so this is a specification normative document, which of course does not have the status of European standard or even technical specification or technical report, but those are consensus specification which are agreed and developed within a specific workshop. I must admit that in Senelec we do not have much workshop agreement. It's more on the Sen side, but we can have Senelec workshop agreement. Okay. Okay. Next, it's about the drafting, editing, and publishing. I believe Catherine, you or me or myself can take care of it, but actually here again, it's not about taking too much time on this because time is running already. You have the internal regulation part 3, which are governing this. We do have some webinars as well, and it's all about the drafting of homegrown standards, because of course in the case of ENIC, you don't have to take the pen and to draft the standard. We take it as it comes from the IEC Central Secretariat. Catherine, maybe you want to address something?
No, I mean, nothing specific, just that, okay, if my mouse, that there is a template that you are invited to use, which is already styled in advance, which in fact, the idea is to ease your work, but the general message here, because, I mean, indeed the clock is ticking, is, okay, do not hesitate to contact our colleagues from the production department. What is interesting to know is that there is, in fact, in the internal regulations part 3, a checklist for standard writers, which can be nice to help you in your work also. At the end, if you have a look at this list and check if everything is okay, it will, I believe it will ease your work. But as said, we are not editors ourselves, so it's nice to say do this without doing it myself, but I believe it's a nice tool to help you. But there are several webinars given by our colleagues from the production department on very specific topic, like, I don't know, how to write formulas, or to write, I don't know, or to refer to normative reference and so on. So there are a lot of webinars on that. Here you have the link how to get to those webinars, which are always available on our websites. So this is just a short reminder on the production, and we are at the Q&A session on the development process. Just to let you know that we had several questions raised by colleagues. For instance, what is an A deviation and so on. So the deviation is a modification to the standards when the standards is in contradiction with a national law. So if a part of the standard is in contradiction with a national law, the country can request to deviate from the standard. So we had several questions on this. We have a question also on the revision. Do we need to have a new work item for a revision in case of homegrown standards? Yes, you need a new work item for any new work item, whether it is a revision or not. And it needs to be approved by the technical board. Is there any other question that I miss, colleagues? Me, I don't think so. Let me see. It's 11. And then I have a question to Nathalie and Constant. Should we do a short break, a 10 minutes break now, or after the Frankfurt agreement session part?
I would say that you finish the Frankfurt agreement.
Okay, so I will try to do it in 15 minutes. So, When speaking about our relation with the international scene, and to be more specific with IEC, of course, one global solution is preferred. Why? It's very simple. It's as with any other business. Standardization has to be carried out as efficiently as possible. And this implies, of course, that duplication of work is to be avoided at all costs, and we need to benefit from existing synergies. So whenever possible, we would go for an ISO or an IEC solution because it's good for the competitiveness of the European manufacturer in global markets, and also openness is very important. As already mentioned by Cinzia and Constant, you know we are not working in isolation. We are at European level here, and the connection between the European and the international scene is formalized through the Frankfurt Agreement. I will not go too much into the detail of the Frankfurt Agreement because there are already webinars available online. Nevertheless, it would not be fair to have such a session today without mentioning the Frankfurt Agreement at all, because the Frankfurt Agreement is really key for Senelec. So there are key aspects in the Frankfurt Agreement. The fact is that the Frankfurt Agreement recognizes the primacy of international standards and aim at standards to be recognized simultaneously at international and European level by means, let's say, of an organized exchange of information between both entities. And the idea of the Frankfurt Agreement is really to expedite publication and common adoption of international standards and accelerate the standards preparation process in response to market demands. What is interesting to note is that there might be some cases where there are some European specificities. And there is therefore a mechanism within the Frankfurt Agreement to handle those specific European needs, let's say. But the global idea, or let's say the main idea of the Frankfurt Agreement, is to support the European market, but using global standards as much as feasible or as possible. Let's just take a brief look at IEC itself. So the IEC counts on a network of 173 countries, which are members or affiliates in IEC, and which does represent approximately 99% of the world population. And as Senelec, IEC is independent and neutral, one country, one vote. IEC is developing product safety and quality standards and is committed to ensure, of course, interoperable ecosystem, which is increasingly important these days. The IEC, as well as Senelec, of course, is committed to a technical barrier to trade agreement from the World Trade Organization. So that was just to set the scene of IEC. But at Senelec level, we are not only or simply adopting IEC standards, we are giving an added value to it. Indeed, through the status of European standards, we ensure one single standard identical in 34 countries. And those countries have the obligation to withdraw any conflicting standards and, of course, to have a standstill policy around it. So this is one of the added value. And last but not least, the other added value, very important, even more important, is the fact that about 30% of the Senelec portfolio is composed of harmonized standards, which are important tool, or crucial tool, I would even say, to show presumption of conformity to EU legislation and give, through the CE marking, a market access of 600 million consumers or customers. So this is not simply just adopting IEC standard, but it's really bringing or adding a value to it. Yeah, I will not go too much into the details because this is historical details. As said, approximately 75% of our portfolio is identical or based on IEC, and 22 is purely homegrown. I will not go into the details of the signature, but voila, it has been, Frankfurt Agreement has been signed in 2016. Voilà, this is the important aspect. It's that the Frankfurt Agreement has 4 main pillars, and we will go through them very quickly because, for instance, for the planning of work item, Constant has already explained a lot, but when IC creates a new proposal, what we used to call in our jargon a new work item, the Senelec Management Center, so CCMC, create the new work item in the Senelec database and adds it to the work program of the corresponding Senelec Technical Committee. As said, there is a mirroring of IEC Technical Committee at Senelec level, so TC20 in IEC, Senelec TC20. Nevertheless, what is important to know is that the information, for instance, on legislative aspects, if your standard is in support of a European directive, the indication of that is under the responsibility of the Senelec Technical Committee, and the Senelec Technical Committee is, of course, invited to get in contact with the IEC Technical Committee regarding this aspect, because the sooner the connection is done, the sooner the info is there, the best it is, because then it's directly entered in our database and then it enters the right track, if I may say so. The parallel adoption process starts in Senelec, yes. Nevertheless, it needs to be noted that if for any reason the IC text is not suitable for the European market, we hope not, but sometimes it happens, or in some sectors, the TC, the Technical Committee, the European one, the Senelec European Committee, needs to ask an exemption from parallel procedure to the Technical Board. It means that there is no European adoption of that standard, but national adoption are still possible. Note, regarding the exemption list is often presented at the technical board. And if you have any question, is my standard on the exemption list or not? Usually you know it, the technical committees knows that, but in case of that, just inform, ask us, ask your project manager to reply, or to reply to the question. What is important to know is that even if you decide to develop a new work, a homegrown new work item at European level, you need to know that the technical committee first has to ensure that there is no overlapping IC works on the topic. And the TC, the European one, also need to assess whether the corresponding IC technical committee would initiate such a work timely to meet the European needs or not. So please be in contact with the IC through your members, or through members of your committee. There's a lot of opportunities. When a proposal for new work item, homegrown one, is approved by the Senelec Technical Board, such proposal, in fact, are by default offered to the IEC Central Office by the Senelec Management Center. For very specific reason, but that Constant, I believe, has explained it, the technical board can decide that a new work item should not be offered to IEC. But this reason is to be mentioned in the new work item form. I don't know, for instance, if the new work item you are initiated at European level is purely to reply to a very specific EU legislation that no other part of the world is interested in. So you can mention that in your new work item and say, no, we do not want to offer to IEC because there's absolutely no interest worldwide on that. Practically speaking, when we have a new work item, which might be of interest of IEC, we are sending it to the IEC CO, but the Senelec technical body can start a new project. CCMC is informed by the IEC CO whether the IEC intends to start a new work item or not. And if there is an interest, of course, the work is continued at international level and the European work item is abandoned. And we will, of course, follow the parallel development of those projects. So the maximum duration of such a project is 24 weeks. Now the next one is the slide that you have already seen when Constant was speaking about the development of parallel projects, so I will not go too much into the details. This is the workflow. We go in parallel and we go synchronously. We vote on the same text at the same time. Just to know that at European level, the IC texts are completed by some specific European element. I'm thinking about a European title pages, a European forward, and in an Annex ZD. An Annex ZD is making the correspondence between the IC normative reference and the Senelec normative reference. So this is another word to our jargon, Annex ZA. And later on, you'll see the Annex ZZ. So bear with us. This slide is just to mention that 75% of IC standards are following Senelec parallel procedure. I mean that they are developed in parallel with Senelec, and that 80% of IC standards are European standards. So this is a very clear statement of the importance of this relationship between IC and Senelec. Yeah. As said, I was mentioning the exemption list. An exemption which is to be accepted by the technical board can be permanently exempted or temporarily exempted. The temporarily exemption can be, okay, we do not know whether we like the IEC text, so let's have the IEC text first, and then after its publication, we can see whether we like it or not, adopt it afterwards, and then remove the exemption, so that the next version is going in parallel, because at the end, the text is okay for the European market. And there are some fields, for instance, which are exempted on a permanent basis. I'm thinking about some, not all, some nuclear standards, or for database aspects, or standards referred to in international legislation, which are exempted from the parallel procedure. This one is just to mention the naming convention. So very naively or simply, if you see an EN standard, if it starts with a 5, so EN 5, it means that it is a homegrown series, a homegrown standard developed really purely at European level. If you see a standard which starts with EN 6 something, this is developed in parallel, or under the Frankfurt Agreement, not necessarily parallel, but it can be an adoption as well. So EN 60,000 something. And these were developed before 2018. Why? Is because since or from 2018, the naming convention has changed, and we are now calling this EN stemming from IEC, or based on IEC, EN IEC 60 tachachak. I hope you followed me. But basically, if you see a 6 in front of the, as the first figures, it means that it's driven, it's coming from IEC. This is the fourth pillar of the Frankfurt Agreement, which is the conversion of European standards into international standards. You have to know that absolutely all Senelec homegrown standards, when published, and also common modifications, for instance, are offered to IC Central Office by CCMC for possible conversion into an IC standard if there is any interest. In principle, the IC Central Office submits these documents to the relevant technical body for IC technical body, for consideration and decision. And if there is any decision, of course, we are subsequently informed. But from a practical point of view, in fact, what is happening is that CCMC, so the Senelec Management Center, is sending a monthly list of Senelec homegrown publication to the IC central office. What is interesting to note is that if the ICTC decided to take over the European work, they will launch a new work item, a new proposal, an NP, as they call it. And in fact, this procedure can trigger what we call a boomerang case, which means that a European project is sent to IC, and then IC is deciding to develop a parallel document. So it's really a boomerang. So there are several cases, whether it's really identical to the Senelec text or whether there are some differences. It's so rare that I will not enter into the details these days, but of course I would be very happy to help you if you have such a rare case. You will never know. But there is this possibility. So we send a European text to IC, and IC saying, oh yes, it's super great. So we take it over at international level and it goes back through the parallel procedure. Ben voilà, we are at the end of the IC part. Let's have a look at the question, or maybe you are so willing to have a